talk to y'all about another method for purifying your water in the wilderness, in case you don't have a filter or some iodine or something to easily boil your water in. We're going to talk about a sip well today. Sip well is a real handy technique when you're on the go and you really need to fill up your water fast. So hang tight. We're going to show you how to dig it, and we're going to rock boil it later also. So it'll be a multi-step process. We've got to build a fire, dig the hole, line it, and all that good stuff. The reason that we need to do this method, Giardia and Cryptosporidium are a real problem, especially in areas with animal tracks around them. So you need to use some form of technique when you're procuring water in the wilderness if you're want your water to be safe and you want to be 100% healthy. All right, so when we're doing a sip well, one of the really important things to remember is that depending on the soil type, this is less applicable in things like clay, but things like shale, like we've got here, or if you're using a sand riverbank or something like that, you got to be mindful, one, of the size of your hole, because as the heat increases, the hole will start to get bigger and bigger and start to collapse in on itself. So unless we've got something that's really formable like clay, we're going to go ahead and dig a hole at a minimum of about 18 inches deep. Now, we've got our creek over here, right? And the way that the principle of a sip well works is you use the soil to filter the water for you. So we dig the hole about 18 inches deep, or at least to where we've got enough room to work with the water if we want to rock boil it and things like that. We want to line the sides with rocks so that the sides don't collapse in on each other. And then the next step after we get this done is you're going to go ahead and make a fire while you're doing all of this. And basically what you do is you've got a platform of rocks that you've created here and then built a fire over the top of. And we'll take 2 or 3 layers of fist-sized rocks. And you also want to be mindful of where you gather the rocks from. You don't want to pull them out of stream beds and things like that, because rocks will explode. I've had several instances, dangerous incidents, where a rock has exploded and they can hurt you. I've had some close calls with it, so be real mindful about that. So get you a real hot fire going, cook these rocks until they're just piping hot, and then after that we're going to rock boil this sip well. Now the thing about a sip well is you don't necessarily need to rock boil it. It can be overkill. A lot of that's dependent upon the area, how bad the water is, and then how much of a hurry you're at. So the next step is we're going to get these rocks heated up and show you how we can rock boil this. All right, so we've had our fire going for about approximately 20 to 30 minutes, enough to get the rocks really piping hot. We built a base of good fist-sized rocks, plenty of them, probably 20 to 30, to make sure we have enough. The one thing that you need to remember, when you're doing this method, is keep your fire pretty close to your actual, where your sip hole is going to be. We're probably this is about 5 yards, 3 to 5 yards, depending on your situation, because you don't want to have to be toting it back, 15 yards, especially if you're using primitive methods. Now, I've got a shovel here today, but if you didn't have a small shovel, I would use just a pair of fork sticks or something like that. Just improvise, whatever's available. So you're just going to take the rocks, you're going to transport them. And it's okay if you get a little charcoal in there. You can hear that baby bubbling. And you're just going to keep filling this until you've got enough rocks to bring that to a rolling boil for a few minutes. You don't need a whole lot. Whatever gets the job done. And this is just a simple rock boiling method. Now you don't necessarily have to rock boil a sip well. You know, this is pretty clean water as it is. And I'm going to let this boil for a little while, and we're going to come back and let it cool off, and it'll be ready to drink. Another thing that this is useful for is you can actually cook in this. If you wanted to make a stew or something like that, you can use this as a primitive cooking container. There's just a million different options for this particular technique, and this thing is really piping hot already, so we're going to give it a few minutes and come back and show you the final product. Alright, so we've been letting this kind of boil up for quite a while now. You want to make sure you boil it for a minimum of about 5 minutes. That's typically a pretty safe number for boiling. You know, these rocks are absolutely piping hot. We could, without a doubt, cook our dinner in here. And I don't know if y'all can see it in the camera, but there's also another really interesting method that I haven't ever heard anybody else teach. Is, let's say you're stuck on a deserted island and you have no water source other than, you know, seawater. Well, you can do this sip well, and you can lay a cloth over the top of this, and you can literally collect the steam just like you can collect dew. And you collect the steam and you keep a constant rolling boil. Now it's going to be a labor-intensive thing to get, you know, small amounts of water, but if you're on a deserted island and that's all you've got, you know, you do what you can. So you put a cloth over this and let it collect all the steam, and then you take it and you wring it out in your mouth after it's cooled down a little bit. And that's how you can distill salt water primitively. You know, this is just one of the many methods of, you know, the techniques that we use for water procurement here at Sigma 3 Survival School. And, you know, just check out some of our other videos. You know, we're doing all kinds of different stuff, and please help support us by subscribing, and tell your friends about it. Thanks.